home business. And hello, I'm Jane Gardner, and we're going to be talking and have been talking about how to start your home business, starting with a business idea. If you want to find out more about how to turn your business idea into a viable business today, then go to the link below and find out how with learning about how to start your business and the 5 essential steps in order to do it at http://bohbtips.com/step-by-step. Anyway, so let's get started, and we'll be talking about the basics of starting your home business. So today we're going to be talking about the essential moving parts you need to get organized in order to start a home business. There we've been talking about identifying your target market. Before that, we looked at defining your business idea. We looked at last week creating a unique solution that would be your business based on looking at your competitors and how you can be unique from them. And today we're going to be setting up the business basics. And after that, we'll define the brand and develop a realistic marketing plan. So let's go on, and I'll tell you who I am. I'm Jane Gardner. I live with my husband, and we work at a home-based structural engineering firm for the last 20 years, and I've come onto the internet to help others start their home business. So today we're going to be looking at setting up the essentials to running your own home business. And we're going to be looking at the legal and administrative requirements that operate in your country regarding running a home business. We've looked at your niche, your ideal customer, and your minimum viable product concept. And those are within your control and waiting for you to decide what you want to do. But of course, here are some essentials you don't have control over. And those are the legal and administrative requirements that operate in your country regarding running a home business. So that's what we'll cover today. Because you have to look at whether or not you can have a home business where you operate in your country. And so we've got to cover some essentials that you need to do in order to stay legal, organized, and effective. We've divided this section up into the most common areas that you'll need to address as a new business. However, each country and each local administration has its own regulations, so be sure to add some additional research based on your own situation by going to your local government or looking on your government websites. So first off, you need to create a legal identity for your company. This will depend on where you run your business from. Obviously, it'll be dependent on the laws in your states or your country or provinces or whichever country you might be in. So go check that out on the government website and see what they require. When you're starting out, you don't need a complicated legal structure, so opt for the simplest form available until you prove the success of your business, of course. So you want to choose a business name that reflects your brand identity and conveys the type of goods and services you offer. Once you settle on a name you like, you need to protect it. This might include legal registration if you wish. You'll want to obviously register your business name as a website on the internet so that later on you won't have anyone else already have that domain name, and you need to protect it. So you've got to figure out, first off, of course, whether you're going to be a sole proprietorship. That's usually the easiest. Or if you want to have a limited company, you'll have to talk to your local accountant to see which they would recommend, depending on your tax forms and depending on the type of business that you're going to run. So now, of course, you've got to go on the internet and look at your government tax laws so that you have to know what taxes you need to pay, that you need to charge, like sales tax. And you may need tax ID numbers before you can start trading. Or for certain countries, for example, where I live, I don't have to do what we call the GST until I make a certain amount of income in my business. So you've got to look at your government websites and find out what they say that you have to do. You certainly need to have a tax ID number to register your business, and then you've got to look at that. Now, as a business person, you have insurance liabilities. If you have a home business, it still needs to be insured for your business in terms of your home. The same applies if you, of course, employing staff. So if you're a service-based business like a coach or consultant, you'll need to insure yourself against professional negligence. And so you've got to ask your professional association that you maybe have joined up, as they often have special deals with insurance providers for your members. Now, just to go back to the premises, I just wanted to reiterate that even though you may be on the computer and working on the internet for your business, if you have customers coming to your place of residence, you still need to have third-party liability in case that customer might fall, or on their way into your property, or they fall inside your property, or they damage your property. You have to have special home business insurance that would cover you having a business in your home, which of course we do. And of course we've never had an incident with our customers ever getting hurt while coming to our office, but it's good to have that insurance anyway. And of course, also, if you work outside of the home, if you work as a consultant and you have to drive around someone else's company car, they also want to know, especially if you're a consultant and you're a private consultant, whether or not you have liability insurance for general commercial liability. So we have that as well. This is for if you go onto their construction sites, or you go onto their business, or you use their car for business, or you drive up in the car with to go to a site. You have to consider getting. Usually, most companies won't hire you for a job unless you have commercial general liability insurance as well, to cover any damage that might happen while you're working with them as a sub-consultant. So there's lots of insurances that you should think about when you have a home business. And even if you just have a computer and you have no one coming to your office, that you might want to considering having insurance for your computer in case of backup, or in case of flood, or in case of that kind of damage, so that they'll pay you to get a new computer, etc. So there's always lots of insurance you have to think about. And then if you decide you want to go into business with someone else, then you may want to consider, and if you may want to consider having another company be the source of your supplies from all over the world. Then you should enter into contracts with other businesses. If you have a partnership agreement and you want to draw one up, you would certainly need to have some legal advice, and I'm not going to give you legal advice on this because it can be complicated. But for example, if you have a product that's a physical one and you don't make it yourself, and you need to find a third-party manufacturer to handle it for you, you could be sourcing your supplies from all over the world and entering into contracts with other businesses, and these have certain obligations, and you have to know what your rights are in terms of these contracts. So I would recommend also having a legal lawyer advice on anything that requires you working with other people. So it's always wise, of course, if you have a partnership, that to draw up a partnership agreement from the start, which helps to help if any disputes arise. And of course, so a business should have a lawyer. You should get an accountant or insurance agent to talk to you about your liabilities and what kind of insurance that you should get in terms of the type of business you're going to have. And then if you want to protect your product or service and you want to patent it, that's quite a process, and it would be intellectual property protection. So if you decide to sell a license to someone to use your product or service, you'll need legal advice from a licensing or copywriting expert as to how to write up a contract that gives the other person the right to use your product or service. And certainly, I'm sure you're aware that patenting an invention can be quite expensive. So it's also good to have legal advice on patenting your invention and seeing whether or not you need to protect your product or service. And trademarking, those kind of things, it's good to have legal advice or a lawyer who's who you know that you can contact for these questions. Now, premises. So you'll need somewhere if you're going to be producing outside of your home, because the local business advisory says that you can't do production in your home. Then you'll need somewhere to produce your goods. So if you're involved in food production, there may be all sorts of health and safety regulations that cover those premises, because usually there's very tough laws against producing food in your own home, so you may have to hire premises outside of your home in order to produce your food product. You may need a warehouse to store your goods and a shipping service in order to ship your business products. If you're planning or running your business from home, you may have to pay business rates for the parts of your house that you use for business purposes, depending on whether or not you use that part for domestic as well. In our country, I believe you can claim up to 20% of your business in terms of your taxes as being used for business, and you can get a deduction, but of course it depends on the country that you're in. And of course you have to pay a business license to your local government in order to, if you have a home business, and then you may have zoning laws that restrict you what you can do. For example, in our community, you can't have a home business in a apartment building where people come to visit you as a client, because of course they don't want you to be doing that for traffic and privacy. As well, there may be zoning laws that also restrict you. Believe it or not, where I live, you can't have a home business if your home is in a commercial zone. It just happens to be you're closer to the city and happens to be in a commercial zone that's going to be developed as commercial, and you happen to live in a home in that area. You cannot have a home business, which doesn't really make sense, but they have to try and do something, I guess, in order to make sure that home businesses are in certain zones. So you always have to contact your planning department of your city hall to find out what are some of the rules for home businesses. I know that we have here a whole home business bylaws that we have to make sure that we restrict our business to. And if you want to make changes to your house for business purposes, such as building an extension, or if you think you'll likely be causing disturbance to your neighbors, it'll probably be necessary to get planning permission for that. But of course, usually noise or smells or that kind of things are in a bylaw which restrict you, so that you may find that you can't do your business in your home in your home. So it's always good to go to your local city hall and contact them, and if they have a home business bylaws departments, go and talk to them and see what restrictions you have. I know we have certain restrictions on the sign that we can put outside our home in terms of advertising who we are, and also, of course, no noise, etc., and smells and all that kind of thing. So it's always good to go check with City Hall as to the restrictions on having a home business. And you should set up terms and conditions for your business, which is rules and guidelines that a user must agree to in order to use your website or your mobile app, or to use your product, or to have terms and conditions that someone has to agree to in order to use your service. So it's because terms and conditions are a legal contract between you, the company, and the user who accesses your website and your mobile app. You may also need terms and conditions for the sale of your product or service. They should cover key issues such as orders, delivery, pricing, payment, risk, warranties, defects, liability, and especially confidentiality. For any consulting coaching program, you should have a non-disclosure agreement between you and the client, that everything that is said between the two of you is confidential, etc. There's many contracts that you need to deal with when you're dealing with being a home business, so that you have to be able to go to a local lawyer and find out what these are. And hopefully they're very much aware of websites and all that kind of thing, so that they give you good feedback. As well, you need a privacy policy now, which is a statement that shows the way a business gathers, uses, stores, discloses, and manages your customer data. It fulfills a legal requirement to protect a customer or client's privacy. There's growing public concern over privacy, and you've just probably heard all about Facebook and how they had to pay a fine, a $5 billion fine, just because they allowed people to breach their privacy of their customers. And so you have to make sure that you use the personal data of your citizens in a very restricted and private way for them. So strict regulations have been introduced for anyone who works with or sells to people in Europe through the General Data Protection Regulation, GDR. So you need to make sure that your business is compliant with the legislation, with penalties for breaches of law could be high. So you need to have a statement where the person coming to your website needs to agree to the privacy policy, or it needs to agree that it's okay that there are cookies on the website. You need to develop a privacy policy that you link through your blog, your website, or any pages on the internet. There are certainly various privacy policy generators available online, but you might want to get it checked out by a legal advisor, since it depends on what country you're in, how strict the policy may have to be. As well, you need a legal disclaimer statement intended to protect the services, information, and property, both physical and intellectual, of your business or organization. It limits the legal liability of the entity presenting the disclaimer and also protects the entity's legal rights in its work. A disclaimer is typically a short paragraph. If you're not sure whether you've drafted a solid disclaimer, you should consult with an attorney. And of course, you have to have that visible on your website, as well as any documentation that comes with your product or service. And now you have to, of course, and you have a whole seminar you could have on setting up your clear and regular financial records, and finding an accountant or bookkeeper who can help out you with tax declarations and so on. You need to keep all your receipts that pertain to your business, as your accountant or bookkeeper will need these for your annual accounts, which you need to file annually to the government. And you can obtain tax relief on certain expenses, which will reduce your tax bills. So it's always good to keep a good set of records and keep track of your finances as you go along, to make sure that you are claiming all the expenses that you can on your taxes, as well as tracking your revenue correctly. Now, of course, if you want to get paid, you may need a business bank account. For example, it is always good to keep separate the monies that you get in your business versus your home. So if you're a limited company, then you have to show the paperwork, in my country anyway, to a local bank, showing that you're a legal entity registered as a limited company. And then they'll set up a bank account, which is basically for your business. And then, of course, it will keep your business and personal finances separate. And you can take payments by check and pay bills as you need to separately in your business account, and they'll give you checks. And you can set up your own business access to your internet business as well. So for taking online payments, you'll need to set up a payment system which is linked to your bank account. So your aim is to make it as easy as possible for customers to pay you. So in addition to more traditional means, People increasingly use their smartphones to make a payment, so we'll be looking to use their digital wallet when paying you. For small business, it's quite simple and affordable to set this up. There are many providers like Apple Pay, Android Pay, Authorized Net, in addition to the well-known PayPal. Your existing bank may also offer digital wallet capabilities as well. There is now the new e-transfer, where you can transfer between people monies with the agreement, of course, that you are both aware and know the password to accept the money as well as to send the money. So look at all the different charges for each system and see which would work best for you in terms of who you are and what your clients do. And check that it can handle global currencies, of course, especially if you have a website and you're on the internet and you may be dealing with people worldwide. Now the big question. Do you have money to start the business? Well, if you are deciding that you want to get some venture capital and you need to raise some money to do that, you'll need to create a business plan, which is another whole seminar, and decide how much of your business you're willing to give up in exchange for venture capital companies. Many governments, of course, also offer grants to new businesses. Crowdfunding has become a popular way for small businesses to raise money. You'll have to determine what you want to give the people who pledge money to your campaign. It could be as simple as giving them the product or service it sells. Although not required, it makes it easier to obtain funding when the funders get something in return. So there's a few options on how to raise your funds in terms of getting money. Of course, a business plan is the easiest because it has certain features in it that will legitimize your business and prove to others that you have a business that will, going forward, will be a good business. So where do you go to get advice on all of these legal aspects and accounting aspects and bookkeeping aspects? Well, most countries have part of their government website dedicated to business startups. Small business advisors in your area, Chamber of Commerce and other business associations will have some advice. But there's also, of course, a few specially defined ones that you can check out. For example, in the U.S., there's the Small Business Administration. In the U.K., there's one called Finance and Support. Canada has the Canada Business Network. Australia has Business Support. And Ireland has the Irish SME Association. So this, of course, is various places that you can get people to help. But I guess I should also say that you can also look at the Business of At-Home Business community and become a founding member there, where we can give you advice and help and resources in starting your home business. And that's at http://bohbtips.com/members. You can have a look at the community and the various offers and things and resources that you can have when you come into the community for the founding membership. So there we go. I didn't know that I was going to be doing that, but we are going to promote that. So let's have a look at now at the summary here, what the action steps are. Well, you're going to have to complete your checklist, adding any items specific to your country. Well, I'm going to have to give you a checklist, so once I put this up on the internet, I'll get you that checklist. So next week, we'll be looking at your marketing plan. Oh no, we're looking at your brand. But hopefully that showed you some of the steps that you need to do to get your company legal. Quite a few. I should make a summary checklist and give that to you. But for now, I've got to go and just say that if you want, you can go have a look at the book, The 5 Essentials to Start a Home Business, and just go to the link and opt in for it, and you'll get it at http://bohbtips.com/step-by-step. So thank you for listening. This is Jane Gardner.